Okay, I want you to imagine something terrifying for a second. Think about that brilliant new remote employee you just hired. The one who totally aced the technical interview, sailed through the background check, and just got their shiny new company laptop. Now, what if I told you that person doesn't actually exist? Well, welcome to our latest explainer. Today we're diving into a really disturbing new reality in corporate security, the massive rise of deepfake hiring fraud. We're going to break down exactly how state-sponsored operatives and cybercriminals are totally exploiting the remote hiring process, and more importantly, how you can actually stop them. So let's jump right in. Look, the shift to remote work gave all of us incredible flexibility, right? But it also kind of blew the corporate front door wide open. I mean, in the past, a cyber attack basically meant hackers trying to smash through your digital firewalls from the outside. But today, they just apply for a job. By using stolen identities, totally fabricated resumes, and off-the-shelf AI, these fraudulent candidates are literally just walking right in. And once they're hired, they get legitimate credentials, a real company email, and authorized access to all your internal systems. It's a hacker's dream. Now, if you're sitting there thinking this is just some rare, fringe occurrence, get a load of this number. According to recent data, a staggering 41% of IT and fraud leaders report that their company has already hired and onboarded a fraudulent candidate. Think about that. Not just interviewed, hired, onboarded. These fake applicants are successfully bypassing traditional HR screens every single day, landing jobs in supercritical sectors like fintech, crypto, healthcare, and infrastructure SaaS. This whole situation means we desperately need a new mindset. Matthew Moahan, the CEO at Get Real Security, really hit the nail on the head here. He points out that all our fancy cybersecurity tech is designed to protect the enterprise after someone becomes an employee. But the most dangerous part of this entire attack, it's that immediate trust you grant right after you accept a face on a Zoom call. We literally have to rethink the whole approach and shift toward this idea of a rigorous pre-employment identity verification, what he calls a pre-ground check. If you want to see just how sophisticated these modern cyber attack methods have actually become, look no further than what happened to know before. This is a major cybersecurity training firm, right? Well, they hired a software engineer who used a perfectly valid but totally stolen US identity. The photo they gave to HR? It was AI enhanced. The guy passes 4 live video interviews, clears a standard background check, and the company ships him a Mac workstation. The very second that laptop arrived, it immediately started loading malware using a Raspberry Pi device. Thankfully, KnowBe4's internal controls caught it instantly, but honestly, it just proves that absolutely no one is immune to this. Section 1. Faking the video interview, AI and proxies. So how exactly are these operatives surviving that crucial live video interview stage? Let's look at how they build the solution. There are basically 2 main plays they use here. First up, you have deepfake video fraud. This is the super high-tech approach where a bad actor uses off-the-shelf virtual camera apps to pipe a real-time AI-generated face directly into Zoom or Google Meet. It syncs the lips, clones the voice, the whole shebang. On the flip side, you have proxy interview fraud. This is a bit lower tech, but honestly, highly effective. It's a classic bait and switch. A highly qualified stand-in actually takes the technical interview, but then a completely different person shows up on day 1. Because companies almost never cross-check identities between interview rounds, this gap is just way too easy to exploit. But here's the thing. The human element is usually your first line of defense. HR folks and recruiters will often get this gut feeling that something is just off, even if they can't quite put their finger on it. Well, here are the actual behavioral red flags you should be watching for. Notice if a candidate keeps glancing off-screen. Not to think, but like they're reading a script. Also, be super wary of sudden camera glitches right when you ask them to adjust their angle. Convenient, right? And listen for a heavy reliance on headsets. They do this to mask the background noise of a busy, coordinated call center. Finally, if they absolutely nail a rehearsed technical question, but then completely fall apart on a casual follow-up chat, you might just be talking to a proxy. Sometimes, though, catching these fraudsters requires getting a little creative. I absolutely love this story. The risk intelligence firm Nisos was investigating this candidate who claimed to be an AI architect living in Florida. The Nisos team suspected an AI tool was feeding the guy real-time answers, so they set a trap. They just invented a fake hurricane and casually asked him how the storm was hitting his area. The candidate calmly replies that they're just getting some minor wind and rain from a hurricane that literally did not exist. It was a brilliant move that exposed the whole charade right then and there. Section 2. Inside the laptop farm, the physical foothold. Okay, so let's say the candidate actually passes the interview. What happens when you ship them a $2,000 company laptop? Well, that computer doesn't actually go to your new employee. It goes to a laptop farm. Picture this, a regular house in, say, Arizona, where some local facilitator has literally stacked dozens of corporate laptops on metal shelves. These devices are plugged into the wall, hooked up to the internet, and connected to specialized hardware that allows overseas operatives to access them entirely remotely. So when your IT department checks the logs, the connection looks exactly like it's coming from a normal domestic IP address during regular 9 to 5 working hours. Take a look at this structural flow. This illustrates a state-sponsored operation, specifically North Korean or DPRK IT workers. It is wild. The worker purchases access to a proxy account just to hide their true location. Then they submit altered credentials to a freelance platform, win the contract from a totally unwitting client, and the client ships the hardware right to the proxy. Finally, the digital payment flows back to the fraudulent account. We're talking about a highly organized, multi-layered supply chain of pure deception here. Let's break down that life cycle step by step so we know exactly how to prevent these laptop farms from taking root. Step 1, they win the job using the stolen ID. Step 2, your company laptop gets shipped to a domestic US mule. Actually, there was a real case where an Arizona woman was sentenced for running a farm that facilitated jobs at over 300 different companies. Crazy, right? Step 3, the device is connected to a mesh VPN and remote hardware like a PyKVM, which lets the operator control the computer before it even boots up. And Step 4, the overseas operative works their local night shift, which perfectly aligns with daytime hours in the US. They remain completely hidden. Section 3, where the money goes, funding the threat. Now, we have to zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about HR headaches or even corporate data theft. Let's look at where all this corporate salary money is actually ending up. According to the US Treasury, North Korean IT worker schemes generated nearly $800 million in a single year. These operatives are highly skilled. They're taking on really complex software engineering and app development projects. A single coordinated team can easily pull in millions of dollars annually. But here is the crucial, sobering point: how that massive revenue is divided up. Up to 90% of those wages are withheld by the North Korean government and funneled directly into the regime's ballistic missile and weapons of mass destruction programs. The remaining fractions? They just go to paying the domestic US facilitators and covering their software and proxy costs. So, by inadvertently hiring one of these workers, companies are entirely unknowingly funding global security threats. The stakes are incredibly high. Section 4. Spotting the deepfake clues, visual and technical tells. Since the stakes couldn't be higher, how do we actually fight back? Let's open up the defense playbook and look at the specific visual and technical clues you can use to spot an infiltrator in real time. Now, human perception really wasn't built to catch live video manipulation, but there are artifacts if you know exactly what to look for. Keep a close eye on the lip sync. Does it lag slightly behind fast or complex speech? Look at the edges of their face. Do things kind of blur or soften when the candidate turns their head? Pay close attention to the lighting too. An AI overlay usually results in lighting that stays perfectly and naturally consistent, regardless of how the person is moving in the room. And watch their eyes. Do they drift naturally, or are they tracking in rigid, rehearsed patterns? But honestly, you can't just passively observe. You have to actively test the candidate. You need to implement real-time verification methods, what we call liveness tests, right there on the call. Simply ask the candidate to turn their head from side to side, or better yet, have them briefly wave a hand right in front of their face. These physical interruptions completely confuse unstable deepfake overlays, and the mask will literally tear or glitch on screen. And hey, as we saw with that awesome Nisos hurricane example, asking highly specific localized trap questions will force an AI script totally off the rails. Section 5. Securing your hiring process. Walking the front door. Catching deepfakes on video is a great start for sure, but securing your entire hiring funnel from top to bottom is what's truly required here. Just consider the difference between a traditional background check and modern verification. Traditional checks verify a person's history. They don't verify their actual identity. An SSN trace is going to come back completely clean because the stolen identity belongs to a real person who doesn't have a criminal record. To actually stop this, you need modern verification. We're talking about biometric validation. You have to track the candidate's visual and vocal identity across every single stage of the interview process to prevent those proxy swaps. And you need deep IP geolocation analysis to see right through basic VPNs. So here is your definitive checklist for upgrading your HR security and keeping that front door locked tight. Number 1, mandate camera use. No excuses, cameras must be on. 2, verify cross-stage consistency. Make absolutely sure the person in round 1 is the exact same person in round 3. 3. Strictly flag any laptop shipping address that doesn't match the candidate's verified residential ID. 4. Investigate VoIP numbers and brand new email addresses. And finally, number 5, your IT team must actively scan all newly shipped remote devices for unauthorized remote access tools before they ever grant system access. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly critical question. Is your remote hiring funnel actually secure, or is the threat already inside? As we've explored throughout this explainer, the absolute most dangerous part of this attack is the trust you hand over right after the face on the screen is accepted. Defeating deepfake hiring fraud means your HR, IT, and security teams have to work together as one unified front. You've got to shift from those basic background checks to continuous, multi-layered identity verification. Please don't wait for a massive data breach or an FBI audit to find out who is really logging into your network. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and stay vigilant out there.